Welcome to your storytelling. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to subscribe. It was the day of our wedding, the one I had dreamed of my whole life. But I had no idea what was coming. His family always made it clear they didn't like me, but that morning, it felt different. I overheard his mother and father in the other room, whispering urgently, and then I heard the words I never thought I'd hear. They were offering him a large sum of money to walk away from me. Was this really happening? Did they think I wasn't good enough for their son? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. How could they do this? And how could he even think about accepting their offer? They promised him a life of luxury if he walked away from me. I kept thinking, maybe he's just caught in the moment, or maybe he was always torn between them and me. I couldn't help but wonder, how much of our future had already been planned by them? Was he even in love with me, or just living a lie? It was getting closer to the ceremony. He still hadn't come to see me, and I couldn't stop the flood of thoughts rushing through my head. The money, the pressure, the promises. I couldn't escape the feeling that everything was unraveling. I needed him to come to me, to tell me it was just a moment of doubt. I needed him to reassure me. I'd spent months preparing for this day, and now it felt like it was slipping away. I felt so small in their world, like I didn't matter at all. I found him standing at the window, staring outside, his hands trembling. He hadn't seen me come in, but I saw the pain in his eyes. When he turned to face me, I could barely recognize him. "I love you," he said, but his voice was shaky. I don't know what to do. They've given me everything. I don't know if I can turn them down." My heart broke. How could he let them buy his love? How could he even consider it? Did he not know what we'd built together? Was it really all so fragile? I couldn't stop the tears. "Please, don't do this," I whispered. He stepped toward me, reaching out to touch my face, but I pulled away. "You have to choose. You can't have both. You can't walk away from me and then come back like nothing happened." The silence that followed was suffocating. I saw the conflict in his eyes, the pull of family loyalty versus love. I thought we were stronger than that. But this felt like a test we couldn't pass. The doors slammed open, and his mother entered, wearing that fake smile I'd grown to hate. "We're just trying to help you, son. We know what's best for you," she said, as if she was offering him salvation. "This marriage, it's a mistake. You're too young, too unprepared. Think about your future." I couldn't take it anymore. "You don't get to decide what's best for him," I said, voice shaking with anger. "You can't just buy him with money." But he was silent, too silent. The moments stretched on, each one feeling like an eternity. I couldn't keep my eyes off him, my love, standing there, torn between me and the life they were offering him. "I don't want to lose you," he said quietly. I could barely hear him over the deafening silence that followed. I wanted to believe him, but how could I when he was still holding their money in his hands? This wasn't the man I thought I knew. This wasn't the man I was supposed to marry. The clock was ticking, and there was no sign of a decision. My nerves were shot. The wedding was in a few hours, but I couldn't focus on the dress, the flowers, or anything else. All I could see was his face, filled with confusion and doubt. "I need time to think," he said, his voice strained. I stared at him, incredulous. "Time? We had no time. You have to make a choice now, or it's over," I said. My words hung in the air. If he didn't choose me now, I would walk away. I stepped out of the room to gather my thoughts, my mind racing. Was I about to lose the love of my life? My best friend? My partner? The thought was unbearable, but the truth was right there, staring me in the face. His parents had made him a deal he couldn't refuse. He was torn, so utterly torn. I had to know, did he love me enough to fight for us, or was I just another casualty in a game of wealth and power? I didn't know if I could survive this heartbreak. I heard footsteps behind me and turned, my heart racing. It was him, walking toward me, his face full of uncertainty. "I don't know what to do. I love you, but this money, it's life-changing." I wanted to scream, to tell him that love should be life-changing, not money. "But I'm here. We have everything we need. Why can't you see that?" I asked, barely able to keep my voice steady. "I can't just ignore them, ignore what they're offering me." His words were like knives. The tension in the air was suffocating. I couldn't breathe. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Instead, I was standing at a crossroads with no clear path. "I'm not asking you to choose between us and them," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "But you have to choose, at least for today." He took a deep breath, looking down at the money in his hand. I didn't know if I could keep waiting, if I could trust that he'd make the right choice. My heart pounded in my chest. I watched him, my love, struggling. I saw his father in the corner, watching him like a hawk, waiting for his decision. "This is for your future," his father said, stepping forward. "Don't be foolish. You can have everything with this money. She can't give you that." I wanted to scream at him, to tell him how wrong he was. But my voice was shaking. "He's not a prize to be bought," I said quietly, barely holding it together. Could he hear me? Could he see the truth? I wanted to run. I wanted to leave, to escape the pressure, but I couldn't. Not without him. Not without knowing if we could overcome this together. "I don't need their money," I said through gritted teeth. "I need you. Don't let them control our future." He looked at me, eyes full of pain and confusion. For a moment, I thought he might understand. But then he glanced at the check again, and the doubt returned. The longer he hesitated, the more I felt like I was losing him. The door opened again, and his mother walked in with that same fake smile. "We just want what's best for you," she said. "You'll thank us one day." I couldn't stay silent anymore. "No, you're not thinking about what's best for him. You're thinking about what's best for you," I shouted. She flinched, but didn't back down. "You're not enough. Not for him. Not for our family. You won't survive in our world." My heart shattered. How could they be so cruel? How could they expect him to choose them over love? I looked at him one last time, pleading with my eyes. "Please, don't let them win," I said, my voice breaking. He hesitated. I could see the battle raging inside him. His parents were still offering him everything. A life of luxury, comfort, safety. And I was here, standing before him with nothing but my heart, hoping it would be enough. But as the seconds ticked by, I began to realize something. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe the love we shared wasn't enough to keep him. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I can't do this." My heart stopped. I stared at him, unable to breathe. The words hung in the air, too painful to bear. "I've made my decision," he said, his voice low. "I'm choosing them. I'm choosing a life with security." It felt like the ground had fallen away beneath me. I had given everything, but it wasn't enough. The man I loved, the man I thought I knew, had chosen money over me. I turned away, not trusting myself to speak. I ran. I couldn't stay there, not another second. I left the chapel, my heart shattered into a million pieces. I had to get away. I needed to think, to breathe. But the world around me felt like it was closing in. "Don't walk away from me." I heard him shout behind me, but I couldn't turn back. I couldn't face him, not now. I had to get out, away from the life he had chosen. I couldn't believe this was happening. How could someone so in love betray everything for money? I found a quiet spot, away from the chaos, and collapsed onto the ground. Tears streamed down my face as I tried to make sense of it all. How could I have been so blind? How could I have trusted someone who wasn't willing to fight for us? My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I didn't want to look. I didn't want to hear his voice. But I couldn't ignore him forever. Reluctantly, I picked up the phone. "Can we talk?" he asked. My stomach churned. What could he possibly say now? He arrived minutes later, looking broken and lost. "I made the wrong choice," he said, his voice trembling. "I should have chosen you. I should have fought for us. But it was too late." "You already made your choice," I said, my voice cold. "You chose them. And now I have to live with that." The pain in his eyes was unbearable. "Please, don't leave me," he begged. "I love you. I made a mistake." But I couldn't shake the feeling that it was all too late. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I said, my voice shaking. "You almost walked away from me for money. That's not love. You didn't choose us." He reached for my hand, but I pulled it away. "I can't trust you anymore. You've already proven where your priorities lie." He stood there, staring at me with that empty look in his eyes. Please, don't do this. I'll do anything to make it right, he pleaded. But nothing he said could undo what had already been done. I stood there, torn between my anger and the lingering love I had for him. You can't fix this, I whispered. You don't get to come back and act like nothing happened. He collapsed onto the bench beside me, head in his hands. I was blinded by their promises. I didn't realize what I was risking, but it didn't change the fact that he had risked me, our love, and everything we had built together. The hurt ran deeper than I could put into words. His voice cracked as he begged me for a chance. I didn't know what they were offering would hurt you. I thought it was just security. But I was wrong. The words seemed empty, hollow, like he was trying to fill a hole with promises. I can't just forget what you did, I said, wiping my eyes. You can't just walk back into my life after choosing them. The damage was done. The trust was gone. And as much as I wanted to believe in him again, something inside me couldn't let go of the hurt. I needed space, time to think. I couldn't process everything in one sitting. I need time, I said, standing up. I can't keep talking about this right now. I have to figure out what I want. He stood too, his face desperate. I'll wait. Take all the time you need. Just don't walk away from me. But the words felt empty. Was I really going to go back to someone who had been so easily swayed by money and manipulation? Could I ever trust him again? I walked away, my heart heavy with uncertainty. How could I rebuild something that had already crumbled? Could I forgive him for choosing them over me? As I walked through the streets, I felt like a stranger to myself. Everything I thought I knew about love was now in question. I found myself sitting alone in a cafe, staring at my phone. Should I call him back? But even thinking of his name left a bitter taste in my mouth. The days passed, and he tried to reach me constantly. Texts, calls, even flowers. But nothing made me feel different. I had to be strong, not for him, but for me. His words were sweet, but the sting of betrayal still lingered. I wasn't sure if I could ever see him the same way again. How could I when he had been so easily bought? His family had broken us, not just with money, but with their control. How had we allowed this to happen? One evening, I decided I couldn't keep hiding from the situation. I had to face him. I couldn't live in limbo, but I also knew that confronting him would either fix things or destroy them forever. I agreed to meet him at the same cafe where we'd first met. When he saw me, his face lit up with hope, but I didn't share the same optimism. I'm here to talk, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. But you have to understand, it's not going to be easy. I'm sorry, he said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. I made the biggest mistake of my life. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I wasn't. I was wrong. I studied him, looking for any sign that he truly understood what he had done. You don't just walk away from love. You don't trade it for money, I said, trying to keep my emotions in check. You should have fought for us. You should have fought for me. His eyes filled with tears. I know. And I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you, if you'll let me. I don't know if I can, I said, shaking my head. I can't just forget what you did, and I can't just pretend like it didn't happen. He reached across the table, taking my hand in his. Please, I need you to give me a chance. I know I don't deserve it, but I'll prove to you that I'm worth it. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that the man sitting across from me was the one I had fallen in love with, not the one who had let me down so completely. As the days went by, I kept going back and forth. I saw him trying, truly trying, but it felt like too much too soon. Could I forgive him? Could I forgive them? It wasn't just him. It was his family, the people who had tried to tear us apart with money and lies. I couldn't ignore their influence in his life, the pressure they had put on him. But he kept fighting for me, showing me that he wasn't giving up. Slowly, I began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, it was worth fighting for. In the end, I made a choice. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't quick, but I chose him. I chose to believe that we could rebuild. It wasn't going to be perfect, and I couldn't forget the pain. But love is about healing, about learning from mistakes. I didn't just choose him, I chose us. We had a long road ahead, and it wouldn't be easy, but we had one chance left to make it work. And this time, we were going to fight together. Thank you for listening to my story until now. If you like the video, Please support it by subscribing and liking.